Kia ora, no mai ki te whare. Welcome to The House. Ka lui Collins ahau. Parliament is in the first week of its final sitting block of the year, and despite only having 3 weeks left till the summer break, MPs have plenty on their plate. This block begins with Scrutiny Week, which we're in the middle of right now. Most of the headlines coming out of the hearings so far have been focused on the fiery exchanges between ministers and the opposition. Moments like this.
So when was the funding allocated for that?
Across several budgets. And that is the nature of
So
it.
which budgets?
Order. We're going to go to our deputy chair,
This is
Mr. Ryan Hamilton. Thank you. I call it. Thank you. I call it. We're going to go. We're going to go to our deputy chair, Ryan Hamilton. Thank you.
Everyone's very excited today, Mr. Chair. It's the Christmas chair, I suppose.
Yes, I'd say so.
But what you don't see often covered are the hearings that are much more in line with the original purpose of December Scrutiny Weeks, a detailed examination of how government agencies are actually performing. Some argue that the absence of ministers creates space for a more inquisitive and constructive back and forth, a conversation that's less political theatre and more genuine auditing. And in many cases this week, that's exactly what's happening. The annual review of the Ministry of Justice was one of the committees that had a completely different feel, calmer, more focused and far more granular.
In both this audit and maybe subsequent audits, there has been some comments around your IT control environment and your procurement processes. So keen just for you to give a bit more, the committee a bit more insight into how you have been addressing some of those issues.
Look, in both of those spaces, in the digital space, to be honest, I think we have been working through a legacy of underinvestment.
There's a fair bit of crossover between the members of the Justice Committee and the MPs who you might call practitioners of the committee stage. One of them is Lawrence Shunan, who drilled into the fine details with officials.
Māori in the justice system, not just in terms of the early answer, but also in terms of remand and also in terms of the court system. Has that number changed or varied? Because I can't actually see a response on that.
So yes, we do track all of those, the disproportionality at all stages through the process. And in terms of remand, there has been a decrease in the number of people on remand at the moment, and the remand rate overall has decreased.
And the proportion of Māori?
The proportion of Māori on remand, I'll just check if I've got that.
Has that increased or decreased?
I think that's increased from memory.
In terms of the proportion on remand, it was about 55. Because the number overall has come down in remand in comparison to the sentence for both non-Māori and Māori, it has reduced slightly in the last few months.
And without the temptation for political tit-for-tat, there's more room for MPs to really test the numbers, like this line of questioning from Labour's Duncan Webb on the government's Retail Crime Advisory Group.
I want to focus on the work of the Ministerial Advisory Group for the Victims of Retail Crime. Is that group within its forecast budget?
Yes.
Is there any concern around the costs that have been incurred by members of that group?
The group is doing its work. They are they're busy and they're producing quite a lot of advice for ministers. As part of that, they're running quite a lot of engagements.
Or what's the audit check when people put claims in for days worked, that the days were worked?
We would take a member's claim for days worked on face value.
Right. It's just, I mean, in terms of the chair, he claimed for 154 days between February and July 25, meaning he worked 5 days a week and 1 or 2 days every weekend and took none of the 6 public holidays in that period. Does that raise any concerns?
Look, I think this is a pretty passionate undertaking for the chair, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did work very long days and hours on it.
Okay. Are you aware of the meeting that was held by the group on 28 February this year? The meeting ran for around 2 hours and it was held at the offices of the group. And there was a lunch which cost around $3,200, so for an unknown number of unknown people. Is it a concern, and do you think it's good use of taxpayers' money to have a $3,000 lunch for a group where you don't know who was there?
Like Question Time, MPs from the government parties also have a chance to ask questions. which also again, like in question time, are sometimes patsy questions. But instead of jumping into the ring to patch up a bruised minister, these patsy questions, when it's just officials in the room, sound more like a polite tap on the shoulder aimed at the opposition.
And I got an email the other day from one retailer on the quay, and I'm interested if the sentiment she shared with me is similar to the sentiment you're hearing from these meetings across the country. She said, I was genuinely and pleasantly surprised by the amount of work happening behind the scenes to support victims of retail crime, as well as the stronger measures being put in place to hold offenders accountable. It's encouraging to see that meaningful changes are underway and that positive progress is being made.
So while the sound bites extracted from Scrutiny Week are often the moments of hostility, it's these more audibly tedious, methodical hearings that likely tell us far more about how our public entities have been performing. I te whakarongo koe ki te whare. You've been listening to The House, a program made with funding from Parliament's Office of the Clerk. Mā te wā.